listen to your heart. Your heart is never wrong. Always face the truth. Your heart won't lead you home.
Welcome to Soul Wealth, wealthy conversations that nurture the soul. Get ready for an enlightening conversation that will nurture your soul and help you live your best life. Now, here's your host, Dr. Vikki Johnson.
Welcome to the Soul Wealth Radio Show. I am your host, Dr. Vikki Johnson. Super excited to be back here on dcradio.gov, 96.3 HD4, as well as all other major podcast platforms. It has been amazing so far, and today is no different. I have another, I like to call him now, dope soul, in the studio with me today. My guest today is a Washington, D.C.-based writer, speaker, and spiritual life coach, holding degrees from the George Washington University in psychology with a concentration in neuropsychology. Her award-winning debut novel, A Fistful of Honey, chronicles the heroine's journey of Malena Crawford and delivers racial healing and reawakening wrapped in a thrilling page-turning tale. So thrilling, I am just interjecting a side note right here that it has taken me months and I'm still not finished. Like, I don't want the book to end. So when I get to a really juicy part, I just put the book down. Like, I'm not ready. I'm not ready for it to end. Since its release in 2017, A Fistful of Honey, I'm telling y'all, get this book, has received wide acclaim and was branded a must-read and a healing balm of a book by many notables, including OWN's host of Iyanla Fix My Life, Iyanla Vanzant. My guest today has been featured on ABC, Fox, and other media platforms, spreading a message of transformation and healing from personal and racial trauma. She is the founder of the Black Divine Feminine Reawakened movement, one dedicated to revolutionizing the way that Black women especially see and experience themselves. She facilitates workshops on personal development, empowerment, and anti-oppression across the globe, most recently in Ghana and South Africa. Her passion for writing and teaching come from a life story of healing and overcoming. A Fistful of Honey is her first novel, and I personally am super excited that she is currently completing its sequel. Welcome to the Soul Wealth Radio Show, Malena Crawford.
Thank you. So excited to be here.
I'm happy to have you.
Yes.
I'm so happy you're writing the sequel.
Yes.
Maybe I'll wait to end the first one when you have the sequel ready so I can just keep going.
Okay.
It is amazing, a long time coming, but I am happy for the success that you are having with A Fistful of Honey and the success you had prior to that. Mm-hmm. And I loved you from day one, moment one, when I met you at Elevation Weekend, sat in your workshop. And that's where I got your book, and the book has an accompanying workbook. But just your work is so powerful and spiritual and sacred that I know it has cost you a lot to be able to give birth to such sweetness, right? So I want to get right in here because time really flies here. Who or what inspires you? Like, first share, before you answer that, like, who are you? Who are you at your core? And who or what inspires you?
What a delicious question.
Thank
Who
you so
am
much.
I at my core? So at my core, I am a woman led by God to do the work of transformation, to do the work of healing, which first began with my own healing.
Yeah.
And so that inspires me every single day to write, to speak, to be the Black Divine Feminine. And when I say the Black Divine Feminine, I mean the female Black aspect of God.
Yeah. That's so good.
Yes.
Like I'm pausing on purpose because frequently, particularly Black women and women of color, brown women, you know, we look for that divinity outside of ourselves, not really understanding or even being in touch with the truth that it's in us.
Yes.
So consequently, we go on this quest, you know, this search outside of ourselves in many ways, many forms, through other people that have us going in circles, quite frankly. So to know that you are championing
Absolutely.
that journey for women of color, you know, to get there quicker, faster.
Yes. Not
You
taking them
know,
15
go
years.
right and go deeper is really a beautiful thing. Listen, what you said something really powerful, and I think it bears repeating, and that is you cannot heal others if you have not done your own healing work. So many people look at what you do, look at what I do, and many of my guests look at what we do and see the glamour of it, but don't see the grit and the grind of it,
Yeah.
right? And a lot of the pain of it. And so I already know that you've had many lessons to get here, to produce such a powerful novel. Like, I'm not playing when I say the book is so powerful.
Thank you.
I read it in slow motion. You know what I mean? Like, I'll read a couple pages and then I'll put the book down. And it was like that from page one. I guess I was like, oh, that was so good, you know? And then I have to go and I stop and take notes. Was that your intention? Did you have an intention when you were writing the book? Did you know how it would be experienced? Or did you just leave that up to individual experience? Like, what was your thought? Or did you even think of that?
So this book was a very spiritual experience.
Okay.
This book was, I'm going to say, channeled. And when I say channeled, I mean it was 100% God-inspired. So I had no intention of writing a novel. I was setting out to write a nonfiction book. And two things happened. My own awakening. 2013, Trayvon Martin's murderer got off. And I was so angry with God. And so angry with injustice, not just in my own life, but with Black and brown people. Why are we in 2013 and this continues to happen? So my prayer, really my demand of God, helped me to understand why this is and how we can stop it. And so A Fistful of Honey was born. Every morning at 4 a.m. for about 2 months, I was awakened and given all kinds of information and inspiration. And the first directive that I got was tell your story and tell it all. So a lot of this fiction book is my own story.
Okay.
Mixed into the adventure, that turned into a page-turning tale. But a lot of what readers feel is real healing power.
I can attest to that. Like, I am a witness of that. And without giving it away, you all have to just get your copy, and Malena will share how you can do that at the end. But a lot of moments that I personally experienced in A Fistful of Honey is the journey inward that you take the reader on. Like, it was so good. It was so good and so powerful and so resonant. You know, like, in many places in the book, I saw myself. And that, to me, is just a great work. When a reader sees themselves in your words, through your words, when a writer can create pictures in a mirror, you know, and the reader says, wow, that's me.
Yes.
Like, it's breathtaking.
Yes.
It's breathtaking, is painful in some places, makes you angry in some places, makes you celebrate in some places. And it's just really a powerful piece. What has been a lesson or two in your life, any lesson you want to share, that has caused you to pivot?
Oh, so many. I think the main lesson was that this lie of unworthiness, this lie that I didn't deserve the life that I desired. And I've had so much trauma in my own life. I think it was just a decision, like, I'm not going to fall for this anymore. And once I made that decision, life started to open up. And when I tell you life starts to open up, there's a lot of blessing in trauma. There's something that you get to become in the face of trauma. You can see your strength. You can see your perseverance. You can see your God self when you're faced with those things. So I was standing at the gate, and the only thing that can open it was the new Malena. And so I had to become the new Malena with all of my new faith, not just in myself, but who I was in God, with a new sense of worthiness. And that's what caused the pivot. I loved myself finally. I loved myself enough to say no more.
That's good. I want to pause right there because so many people live at the mercy of their circumstances, of their trauma, of drama in their lives, of brokenness. So many people live there and live at the mercy of that experience, not really understanding that what they need, the tools that they need to move out of and beyond that as a whole person, right? They aren't really aware of that. So I think that's really beautiful that your experience is such that, I have to become. Who do I have to become to move beyond this, to move not just beyond this, but into
Who
what
do I get
God
to become?
has for me? Who do I get to become? Who have I always been? And have been living with that in my blind spot. So I think that's awesome, an awesome place that caused you to pivot. Share another lesson.
Another lesson that if you're reading this book, if you're reading A Fistful of Honey, you will see the theme of forgiveness a lot in this book. And so forgiveness for me was a spiritual oil that got me through all the stuck spots. And the most important person that I need to forgive was myself for all the choices that I'd made, for who I judged myself to be. Because a lot of that stuckness, especially getting stuck in trauma, is you believe this is what you deserve from life, especially if you are in a generational cycle of trauma and you've seen your mother, you've seen your grandmother, and so forth experience this trauma. Part of us begins to believe this is our normal. This is something that we deserve somehow. So forgiving myself for believing that was a huge point of pivot.
That's really good. And forgiveness is a theme throughout the book, because I even found myself while reading the book, like, don't forgive them for that. Knowing that wasn't the correct thing, but in the moment of emotion. And it speaks to, we talk about your background in neuropsychology, which is powerful and now makes sense, because as you're reading the book, there's something deeper at work in your pen as you're writing, in your words. I'm like, this is not just serendipitous that these emotions are coming up, that these opportunities to heal are coming up. I know it's an integration. It's the science, it's the spirit, it's the sacredness of it, It's the oil on it, it's the divinity on it. I get all of that integration, but to hear you say there is a stream of forgiveness throughout the book is absolutely correct. And to even highlight it as a place of pivot and a tool that you use is absolutely true, because offense oftentimes is difficult to move beyond when you don't really understand that forgiveness is for you, the one offended. And for years, I can relate to that, because for years, I held on to unforgiveness in multiple situations, thinking and incorrectly thinking that if I forgave the offender, they got away with what they did to me. And I wanted them to suffer. I mean, let's just get down to the bottom line. I wanted them to suffer and feel pain the way they caused me to suffer and feel pain. So I think it's really beautiful that those moments in your life got you to a place where, you know what? The secret is forgiveness.
Yeah.
I have to forgive. And even the heroine in your book struggled with that a bit, which I loved, because it was so real and true to many of our journeys. It's not that easy. And taking that back to the Trayvon Martin context, as you said, I think that awakened a lot of anger in a lot of people. And how do you move on? How can that not impact you in a way that traumatizes you?
Yeah. I do want to mention something about forgiveness, though, because we tend to talk about it in a noble way. You were able to forgive, so somehow you were holy, or and forgiveness does not happen like that. You don't just let it go and walk. Well, most of us are not able to just let it go and walk away. There are phases of forgiveness.
Absolutely.
And I think when I talk about forgiveness, we really have to be compassionate with ourselves as we're going through those phases of forgiveness. If you're not ready yet to forgive, release is something that you can look forward to, or that you can push forward to. Releasing the person and really the scenario, because it's what happened. It's not so much the person, but it's what happened between you and what they made you believe about yourself, believe about God, or believe about life. So that's the first goal, I would say, is releasing that from you so that you can be free. And then when you're ready, as you move through your process, you can forgive. But I really want to let especially women know, if you're not ready yet to forgive, there's nothing wrong with you. It means that you're human, and move through that process with grace and with, again, love for yourself.
Yeah, I think that's good. I think that's a good reiteration that there is nothing wrong with you, and that you do get to have your own process. And at the same time, you don't feel like forgiving. Forgiveness is a choice, right? It's a decision that you make, and then you do the work of restoration and recovery on the other side of that decision, because I also want those listening who may be challenged in the area of forgiving or forgiving self, or you're just stuck in this place of unforgiveness, is that there's so much more beauty on the other side of that decision.
Absolutely.
To forgive. So what we're saying is that you can forgive or delay the choice to forgive, but you can make the decision to forgive and then do the work of recovery. And that does take time. Give yourself grace to move through that. And more importantly than releasing the person or the offender is doing the work around, what has this caused me to believe about me, about my life, about God. I think that's beautiful. So we can talk about that for the entire show, but we're not. So I want to move on. What are you grateful for?
I am so grateful for the grace of God. I'm so grateful for the sense of oneness, knowing that I am in fact, connected to God. That was something that I didn't always know, didn't always feel, and I finally do. And I'm so grateful for that. Yeah.
How did that happen?
It happened with this book writing process. I always had around me women who had these fantastic spiritual gifts. They could see, they would have dreams, and it would happen. And I'm sitting around here like, well, I guess God just forgot about me because I don't have any of that. But when I started to get this information, I was like, oh my God, God is speaking to me. And that must mean that God has not forgotten me. And that must mean that I'm connected to God and I'm all that God has said that I am. So writing this book has changed and saved my life in so many ways and allowed me to experience that grace in a very visceral way. Mm-hmm.
That's a powerful recognition that
Yes.
God has not forgotten about me.
Mm-hmm.
In addition to writing the book, share another moment that changed your life forever.
Having my daughter, having my baby girl, you know, as a mother, as a parent, as a caregiver, getting to experience that love that's bigger than anything I had experienced before. It completely transformed my heart. I never knew I could love that much, that I could care for another human being that much until she came along. So that has changed me as a woman, yeah, and as another human.
Do you see a lot of your traumatized self in her, or do you see your healed self in her, or do you see both?
I see my healed self in her, thank God. I see all that I wanted to be as a kid. She's very confident, very outgoing, very extroverted. And those were all things that as a child, I was the opposite. So I see my healed self, and I also see the inner child, you know, my inner child in her. And
That's
I get
awesome.
to parent that inner child.
Isn't that
So
awesome?
that
Talk
is
about what that
awesome.
feels like. Share that.
It feels wonderful. It feels like a second chance because I get to parent her in the ways that I wanted to parent. Not saying that, you know, I had bad parents, but I get to parent in the ways that I wanted to be parented, that I wanted to be loved. And also, she's just an instant mirror. You know, our kids are instant mirrors.
Yeah.
If I say that I am, she makes me stay in integrity, because I cannot say that I'm one way and not be that way. She will call me out in a heartbeat. I can't say I'm going to do something and not do it. So, yeah, she keeps me in check, and she keeps me honest, and I get to make sure that I am always a demonstration of a woman loving herself, because I know her eyeballs are watching.
I definitely understand that. It's nothing like living with accountability, right? Not just accountability of self, but having someone watching us as an example. What legacy do you want to leave? How do you want to be remembered?
I want to be remembered as a fearless woman, as a woman who had the courage to be who she really was, or is. Yeah, a fearless woman. I would love that on my little tombstone. She lived fearlessly, and she did exactly what she wanted to do.
What else do you want to do? What do you want to do that you have not done?
I want to get into movie making, starting with A Fistful of Honey. I want to just really go to the next level creatively. I would love to write a young adult novel eventually, maybe a children's book. So, but definitely dealing with film, I think would be really, really fun and exciting.
I'm looking forward to the movie. Share with us, before we close, we're winding down, share with us about the Black Divine Feminine Reawakened movement. How did that start?
Yeah.
Because you started that before the book, right?
Yeah, 2015. So that started because I was searching for me being the reflection of God. I didn't buy it. I grew up in a Christian household, grew up in Southern Baptist household, and the only representation of the divine that I saw was a white and blonde Jesus. And so when I kept hearing, "You're made in the image of God," I was like, no.
Hold on for a minute. Stop. Just pause right there.
Yeah.
I want to hold that because that's real.
Yeah.
Like, that does not look like me. And consequently, it subconsciously plants a seed of, if my wins and my victories and my successes don't reflect that,
Right.
I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
Yeah. On top of that, I have dark brown skin. So everything I heard about religiously, dark brown skin was a curse.
Right.
So for some reason, I was attached to a curse. This was my thinking. Well, deep thinking. I was attached to a curse for my skin. But then being a woman, I was still attached to a curse with Eve and with Mary Magdalene being the whore of the Bible. So I had to, the Black Divine Feminine Reawakened was all about undoing those lies and pulling up those veils and really getting to the truth of the image of God.
That's good stuff. That's good stuff. And you have thousands of women
Yes.
in that community on Facebook, which leads me to, how can our listeners connect with you? How can they get the book? Like, where can we find Malena Crawford and this great book and this great group, Black Divine Feminine Reawakened?
Well, they can find me on the Black Divine Feminine Reawakened. I know that's a mouthful to say, but that's on Facebook.
All spelled out.
All spelled out.
Okay.
You can find me on Instagram at Malena Crawford, Malena. You can find me on my website, www.malenacrawford.com. Do people still say www? Probably not.
It's okay.
But you can-
www.
But you can find me there.
MalenaCrawford.com.
Yeah, you can find me there. So, and I'm also very rarely on Twitter, but I am on Twitter at Malena Crawford. Yeah, so you can find the book on Amazon.com. That's a fistful of honey. And we would love to have you on Facebook. So join. There are every day something to encourage Black women, quotes, pictures, videos. So please join us there as well.
It's a powerful community, a fistful of honey. The artwork on the cover is absolutely gorgeous. It looks like you
Thank you.
to me, and I'm excited about the sequel. Grateful to have you here on the Soul Wealth Radio Show, and we are winding down.
Yes.
You all get this book. It's available on Amazon. Visit her website, MalenaCrawford.com, and Black Divine Feminine Reawakened, the page on Facebook. You can join that community. Thank you for listening to the Soul Wealth Radio Show here on dcradio.gov and 96.3 HD4. I am your host, Dr. Vikki Johnson, and you can also get my latest book, Soul Wealth, Finding Vision, Compassion, Authenticity, Abundance, and Legacy in the Midst of Chaos. It's available via my website, VikkiJohnson.com. That's VIKKI Johnson.com. Listen, Soul Wealth is your birthright. Those of you who are listening, I say that to you daily. I want you to go out, live full, so you can die empty. Until next time, peace.
You've been listening to Soul Wealth, wealthy conversations that nurture the soul with Dr. Vikki Johnson. Soul Wealth is not just a brand, it's a lifestyle of vision, compassion, authenticity, abundance, and legacy created one conversation, one choice at a time. For more information, visit VikkiJohnson.com or click on Soul Wealth at dcradio.gov.